Another area, business property relief, another big change with this budget. Now, we've always dissuaded from individuals allowing the business to continue and then walk away, partly because they're often, when they stop advising, losing the relationships, etc. So what is the benefit? But business property relief was always an exciting tax allowance there, when it's all completely reset on death. So there's not rollover relief or anything. It was a zero tax. But that's all changed. What are the changes? Can you just run through them?
Yeah, so as you say, this was all changes from the budget last year, and effectively, business property relief is an IHT relief, and what it allowed people to do was, and I'll kind of simplify it in the most likely common way that we would see it. It's shares in your trading business would be qualify for business property relief in general terms. And so essentially what that meant was you could leave shares in your trading business to the next generation on death, and there'd be no IHT for the value of those shares. The change that was made in the budget was that the Chancellor decided to cap the relief. So now it's only the first million of value that you can pass inheritance tax free. And then the balance above that is at basically 20% inheritance tax, which is why there's been a lot of coverage in the press, and particularly farmers seem to have gotten most of that press coverage because there is a form of inheritance tax relief that applies to farmers as well that's also being curtailed. But actually, we shouldn't lose sight of business owners, just in whatever sector they're in, also being affected. And you're quite right. It was quite common for people, because of this IHT shield, this BPR shield, pre-budget, to say, I don't need to tax plan for my company shares. I can die with them, and that's fine because it goes to the next generation and no one has to do anything. And I think one of the really interesting points about the changes is you're quite right. So not only obviously is there a tax rise, but the practicalities of dealing with that tax rise have to really be thought through, because what you're going to have there is a business that's been left to the next generation, and the recipients, the beneficiaries, the next generation will have to pay that IHT bill.
Yeah, where are they going to get that?
Where are they going to get that money from? Exactly, because what they've inherited is an asset. They haven't invested cash in this context. So they're going to have to find a way to fund that inheritance tax bill. Interestingly, there was a consultation. HMRC released a consultation about these changes where they have posed a couple of scenarios and questions, and they obviously want feedback from professionals and interested parties about how these rules might work. I mean, there's been no sign in that consultation that these rules are being softened. So I think we're fairly sure that they're going to happen. And this is all about the implementation of how they're going to work. But from all of the provisions they've outlined, it's as we expected it to work.
I think there's going to be a complete change in the fact that not many people have been writing whole of life policies in the past, but they might become very popular in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think will writing, whatever somebody's will has had, is going to have to be considered again now, because all of these changes, and also the change with business property relief and about spouses as well.
Absolutely.
And about what you can and can't do.
Just to clarify, and it's a really important point you've raised, is unlike pretty much all types of tax relief, the £1 million BPR allowance won't pass to your spouse.
Yeah.
So essentially what that means is, if, as you say, it's quite common for spouses to leave their estates to each other. And if you do that, and you're leaving shares in your trading business to your widow, then the 1 million allowance doesn't go with it. So when you leave assets from between spouses, it's inheritance tax free. So there isn't inheritance tax payable, but what will happen is that the remaining spouse won't have a £2 million allowance to pass to the next generation. So you're quite right. Now is the time to think about looking at your will and saying, do we need on the first death to pass £1 million of value to the next generation so that it doesn't get lost on the second death?